All right, Etna volcano. Dun 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 dun. Volcano news. Evico. Fuego Sangay. I know I saw Etna here.
We're doing it live.
And we're doing it live again. Yeah. What? Yeah, oh my God. I got to go through all these. Come on. Oh my gosh. Etna, there we go. All right, we're on Etna. Let me share the screen. So, screen volcano share. Etna. Oh no, maybe later. Etna volcano update. Show on the screen. There we go. All right, talking about Etna. This is part 2, everybody, of the rabbit hole. We got interrupted by the soon-to-be vice president doing his speech, acceptance speech. All right, so 8:36. We'll go to 9:36. All right, so go ahead. Yep, you were talking about
so we are talking about Etna because it's been acting up quite a bit lately and shooting off stuff and having a fit. Well, it always does that after there's a long duration eruption in Iceland. Now I'm going to explain how I found that out. I started studying the history of the biggest Etna eruptions and earthquakes around Etna. So I decided I was going to get all those dates because they have records on Etna going like way back, right? Like way back to like 0 and beyond. So I started looking when they have the records of all the quakes because they have the exact years when they've had big quakes there and big eruptions. So the first one I looked up was like 1784. I'm going, oh, well, that's an interesting year. I said that because I've studied a bunch of the Iceland things. I said, well, that's like the same year of the Lackey Fissure eruption, which lasted for a long time. So it went for like 6 months. It started in 1783. And not only did they have a big eruption at Etna, they had a whole bunch of earthquakes there that caused tsunamis right by Etna. Like 3 of them.
Really?
Yep. Like it was right while the Lackey Fissure eruption was still going, but it was just about to end. And so then I looked backwards. I said, well, I'm going to find out when they had big quakes and tsunamis and Etna eruption there before. And the last time was like in the 1100s. I think it was like 1167. The same time all these crazy eruptions the last time stuff was erupting in Iceland in the Reykjanes. That's when it was. And also at that same time, Grimsvötn was erupting. So Grimsvötn was erupting in 1783 because the Lackey Fissure eruption is one of the ones that runs out away from Grimsvötn. So, and then I said, well, that's interesting. So then I kept going back farther in time because they have records of all the, and I went way back to like, I think it was like the year 654 or something like that. And then I could match them up with the record of the Iceland eruptions because they have them going way back. And I said, look, Grimsvötn's doing the same thing again. And it went for like 6 months. So whenever there's a long duration eruption, you'll start getting bigger eruptions at Etna that are noticeable. And then if the eruption goes on long enough in Iceland, the longer the eruption lasts in Iceland, it'll start getting big quakes down there and tsunamis. And it's on the same liniment line. And it's crazy stuff. And it did it every time. So it's similar to like what it does on the East Coast. When we get bigger quakes on the East Coast, there's always like a major eruption going in Iceland. And that's how it works.
All right, let's give a little history about volcanic activity of Etna. 500,000 years ago, it began, and with the eruptions occurring beneath the sea off the ancient coastline of Sicily. About 300,000 years ago, volcanism began occurring in the southwest of the summit, center top of the volcano. Then activity moved towards the present center of 170,000 years ago, Eruptions at this time built up the first major volcanic edifice, forming a stratovolcano and alternated explosives and effusive eruptions. The growth of the mountain was occasionally interrupted by major eruptions, leading to the collapse of the summit to form calderas. From 35,000 to 15,000, Etna experienced some highly explosive eruptions, generating large pyroclastic flows, which left extensive ignebrite deposits, ash from these eruptions that have been found as far away as the south of Rome's border, 497 miles away. Thousands of years ago, eastern flank of the mountain experienced a catastrophic collapse, generating an enormous landslide in an event that's similar that is seen in 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. The landslide left a large depression on the side of the volcano known as Vallée des Bouves, or the Valley of the Ox. Researchers published in 2006 suggest that it occurred around 8,000 years ago, causing a huge tsunami in eastern Med. The steep walls of the valley have suffered subsequent collapses in a number of occasions. The strata exposed in the valley of the walls provide an important and easily accessible record of Etna's eruptive history. The most recent collapse of the summit of the event occurred about 2,000 years, forming the Payana caldera. This caldera has been the most entirely filled of subsequent lava eruptions, but is still visible as a distinct break in the slope of the mountain to present-day cone. Mount Etna moved towards the Mediterranean Sea on an average of 14 millimeters a year, or half an inch. The massive sliding on an unconsolidated layer above the older sloping terrain. 396, Etna reported thwarted the Carthaginians in their attempt to advance to Syracuse during the Second Sicilian War. Particularly explosive Plinian eruption occurred in 122 BCE and caused a heavy tephra falls in southeast, including the town of Catania, I don't know how to spell it, Catania, where roofs collapsed. To help the reconstruction after the effects of the eruption, the Roman government exempted the population of Catania from paying taxes for 10 years. The Roman port Virgil gave what was most probably the first-hand description of the eruption in the Aeneid, I guess, a Latin epic poem that tells the legendary story of the Aeneas, Aeneas, a Trojan who fled the fall of Troy and traveled to Italy, where he became an ancestor of the Romans, written by a Roman poet, Virgil, between 29 and 19 BCE. I guess June 1287, Rabbi Bun Sumi, a Chinese traveler to the west, recorded an eruption of Etna. 1669 eruption, most destructive since 122 BCE, started on March 11th, 1669, produced lava flows that destroyed at least 10 villages on the southern flank before reaching the city walls of Catania. 5 weeks later, on April 15th, the lava was largely diverted by the walls into the sea to the south of the city, filling the harbor of Catania. A small portion of the lava eventually broke through the fragile section of the city walls, and the city was destroyed. A few buildings before stopping in the rear of the Benedictine monastery without reaching the center of town. Contrary to widespread reports of up to 15,000 or 20,000 human fatalities caused by the lava. Contemporaneous accounts written both in Italian and English mention no deaths related to the 1669 eruption, but gave very precise figures of numbers of buildings destroyed and economic damage. Therefore, it's uncertain as to the number, where the enormous number of fatalities came from. Possibly the confusion between the eruption and earthquake that devastated Sicily, and including Catania 24 years later in 1693. A study in the damage of fatalities caused by the eruption of Etna, Historical Times reveals that only 77 human deaths were because of it. The most recently, 1987, when 2 tourists were killed in a sudden explosion near the summit. Don't go on the mountain. Since 1757, Etna eruptions have occurred of more than 5 years, or duration of more than 5 years, more than any volcano except Vesuvius. Modern day eruptions, 1993. Large lava flow, 1928. The village of Mascali lying on a downslope, Rip Delia Naka, was almost completely destroyed. So I didn't see anything. 1949, 71, 79, 81, 83, 91 to 93. In 71, lava buried the Etna Observatory, built in the late 19th century. So 81, Etna escaped. So the dates that they have here on Wiki talk about a long sordid history with Etna being explosive, especially in the 1669 eruption, which is pretty devastating. And does that fit the same time period as Iceland volcanoes eruptions?
Yeah, I think 1669 was one of the years that Grimsvötn was erupting too, if I remember right. Because I started in like 1783 and went way back.
So does it usually start before or after Etna in Iceland?
Etna is usually after.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to find the article where it listed all the things in it, because it was a recent one. I only read it like 2 years ago. I'm finding all sorts of information about the quakes that I mentioned, but I'm trying to find the actual article that gives all the dates.
Right.
Yeah, Hekla did 1768 to 1766. Cotopaxi in Ecuador, 1768. Japan, Mount Usu, 1769. But 66 was the date Hekla was erupting in a stratovolcano in the southern Iceland, height of 4,800 feet. Hekla is one of the most active volcanoes. Over 20 eruptions have occurred around the volcano since the year 1210. During the Middle Ages, Iceland's Norse called it volcanic.
So then it was Hekla that year, you said?
Gateway to hell. Hekla's gateway to hell. Yeah, and I just looked it up. What the year for that? 1669 was Mount Etna's massive eruption, but Hekla did. Mount Etna also blew up in 1787. Hekla did 1766 to 68. Now, this is on Wiki. That doesn't mean it's all of Wiki.
Yeah, I can't find the article now, but it was from Europe, because it was talking about when they had the big earthquakes and stuff.
Laki blew up 1783 to 1784. 10,000 plus fatalities.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I put in the article there about the earthquake sequence that was in 1783, because it was like 3 big quakes with 3 tsunamis, like right close together.
Right. On June 8th, 1783, a fissure of at least 130 vents opened up. Phreatomatic explosions because of the groundwater interacting with the rising basalt magma. Over the few days, the eruptions became less explosive, Strombolian, and later Hawaiian in character, with high rates of lava effusion. This event, rated as a 4 on the volcanic explosivity, the VEI, that's pretty good. A 4 is no freaking joke. Yeah. But the 8th month emission, sulfuric aerosols, resulted in one of the most important climatic and socially significant natural events in the last millennia. The eruption, known as the SKAFT, so Skaftar Ladar, Okay. Or soy Ledoux produced an estimated 14 cubic meters of basalt lava, and the total volume of tephra emitted was 0.91 square kilometers. Lava fountains were estimated to have reached heights of 800 to 1,400 meters. That's 2,600 feet to 4,600 feet. Can you freaking imagine?
That's pretty amazing.
Wow. That's bigger than the mountain I got in the back here. I mean, it's not as high, but if I was at sea level, because it's only 1,500 feet above me. So
Right.
twice as, I mean, God bless America. It said the gases were carried a convective eruption column to altitudes of about 50,000 feet. The eruption continued on February 7th of 1784. Most of the lava was ejected in the first 5 months. One study that states that the event occurred in 10 pulses of activity, each starting in a short-lived explosion phase, followed by a long-lived period of fire fountaining. Grimm's volcano, from which the Laki fissure extends, also erupted at that time, 1783 to 1785. Outpouring of gases, including estimated 8 million tons of fluorine and estimated 120 million tons of sulfur dioxide, gave rise to what has since become known as the Laki haze across Europe. Wow, I can't imagine that. Jeez.
That's pretty amazing.
The lava fountain shooting up half a mile? I mean, what type of gas?
That's like 4 city blocks actually.
Yeah, I mean,
Straight
that's
up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, that's higher than I think any building that man has made. 2,500 feet to 4,600 feet. With a lava fountaining straight up. How the hell does that happen?
Lots of pressure. Lots of pressure.
Well, and read about the earthquakes that happened then too, because that's that one article I posted in there. It's friggin'
you got that?
All right. It's crazy town. Wait till you read it.
There was like 7s in there, wasn't there, Canuck?
Yep.
Living time of subsurface revolution of 1783, Calabrian earthquake sequence. All right.
And look where they started, right by the Etna.
Oh yeah, this is Etna here. Here's Sicily here. Yeah, Messina. I didn't see it. Over here. Here's
yeah, see Sicily, see island right next to it.
Right. Straight across. That's a lineament right there. So if you're going to draw a lineament, you have to draw it from this side here, straight across Calabria. Out. See, where's this? This is here.
Yeah, but this was the same time the Laki fissure eruption was going.
Right.
Iceland.
In March 28, 1785, strong earthquake shook Calabria. Sicily were followed by hundreds of aftershocks and followed by The earthquake caused widespread destruction, killed an estimated 35,000. The first strongest quake was the 5 February 1783. Historical earthquakes are not measured in modern size monitors. Geologists rely on historical descriptions of damage reports and blah, blah, blah. The strongest possible level was a 12. God, they're talking about a 9 or something, I don't think I've ever seen a 12. Yeah. The Chilean 1960. Yeah, that's what I said, a 9. Strong possible level 12 reached in Chile in 1960. The strongest ever recorded, the earthquake in February 5 city, they reached 11, one step lower on the mercantile. This means it's probably a 9, not a 9.2. I think wasn't Chile 9.2 or was it 9.6?
9.5. I thought
Yeah,
it was.
9.5. Yeah.
Okay, so probably a 9 or a 9, between 9 and 9.5. This inferred extreme destruction of all but structures and the trigger landslides and rock slides. Excuse me. The earthquake was extremely destructive force. The description was a high earthquake intensity, correlated Richter magnitude around 7. I don't buy that. Frightened by the earthquake, many people spent the night outside. 60 residents slept on the beach. Second large earthquake occurred shortly after midnight on the 6th of February. A rock slide near Skaya caused a tsunami which killed 1,500 people. Wow, those people on the beach. Another strong earthquake occurred February 7th at 1:10 in the afternoon. It was followed by another on the 1st of March at 1:40 a.m. The fifth and last large earthquake occurred March 28th at 6:55. The King of Naples established a Casa Sacra, a governmental body administrated appropriated church aid to the reconstruction. So 1783 was a bad year for them.
Yep.
Yes.
And was that the same year for?
Yeah, the Lackey Fissure eruption was that same year.
There we go. 1783. 1783. Yeah.
Yeah, it talks about it more in that article because they got the fog from the Lackey Fissure eruption there in Italy.
So how do we talk about Iceland right here, Lackey, and Sicily down here on the same page? There you go. Let me go back a little bit more. There we go. As best I can get. So down here in the middle of this, down the lower left, and then Iceland up here. What is the connection, or is there? Can we surmise a connection?
Yeah, well, what it's doing is because Iceland's on the mid-Atlantic ridge, so whenever those volcanoes up there are erupting, it's making more land and pushing on the plates. So then everything on the European side is going to react. So the bigger the eruption is and the longer duration in Iceland, it's going to start moving large first, the next way down on the lineament. So in this case, in 1783, it did it by Etna. But it's done that numerous times because it did the same thing in 1167 and then back in I think it was like the 600s or 500s.
Oh, good. Good, Bob. Welcome, Bob. Nice to see you. You saw a post earlier of lava dome collapsed and sent lava flowing 20 to 60 miles an hour, like a rapid lava flowing. Yeah, Eden has a freaking flamethrower for right.
So it's wild stuff.
You know, we live right now, besides the near World War III that we're in, we live kind of charmed. I mean, I think what is the last big giant quake or volcano? Was it Manitoba? Was that the latest one, or was one over there Indonesia or something?
What, super volcano, you mean?
Toba? Yeah, the last one that really blew up in our modern times. You know, had a VEI of what, 5 or 6 or something.
Tambora, or I think
maybe it was Tambora. It was Tambora. I think you're right.
Was that like 565 AD?
No.
That was like 1815 or here, I'll find out. It was around
I'm already doing it.
Yeah, it was like around the same time that the New Madrid quakes and all that
1815. Yeah.
because there's crazy solar stuff going on then too.
Yeah, April 5th, 1815. Now, I was referring to one that's more where, I mean, we're going to see in April 5th, in this time period, that it's 1815. We can know about it.
Because 1816 was the year without the summer. And
oh, was it? Okay,
yeah.
Yes, Tambora, and I mean, I think we talked about the year without a summer and how devastating that was. Again, this is in the 1800s, and it lasted all the way. Well, the year without a summer was then, but the mini ice age was going on until like 1900. So there was a whole kind of group of things happening, from what I gathered.
Yeah, there's all sorts of crazy eruptions and
Right.
stuff back in the 1800s.
Right. I mean, we studied the 1800s quite a bit on our rabbit holes here.
Well, like we just talked about 1783. Well, that would have been like,
wasn't there one like in the 1980s?
32 years after that was Tambora.
What wasn't there one in the
32.
1980s over there? Was it the Philippines or was it
Pinatubo?
Pinatubo?
Yeah, I think that was 90s, I think. Early 90s. Yeah, it was a big eruption. I forget what VEI it was. I can find it.
It's a VEI 6, June 15th, 1991.
Yeah.
The second largest terrestrial eruption in the 20th century after 1912 eruption of Nova Rupta up in Alaska. What I was getting at, is, taking a step back from all the data and stuff. A VEI 6 happening today, somewhere in the world, that's freaking massive. In 1991, it happened. I remember it because it was, I guess they just moved the military base, I think. They just evacuated it. And then 10 billion tons of magma were released in that explosion. 20 million tons of SO2, bringing in large amounts of minerals and toxic metals to the surface, ejected more particulate into the stratosphere than any other eruption since Krakatoa in 1883. The following months, aerosols formed a global layer of sulfuric acid and haze. Global temperatures dropped a half a degree Celsius and 0.9 Fahrenheit in the years 91 to 93. And we had an El Nino then.
Yeah, Mount St. Helens was VEI 5.
Was it VEI 5? All right, so was Hunga Tonga Happy Eye. That was a VEI 5. So, I mean, looking at the VEI scale, this is the VEI scale. All right, so here's St. Helens here. Here's Pinatubo. And here's Tambora. So St. Helens is, small.
Yeah.
Actually, very small compared to a VEI 6.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to get at is the intensity. We talked about the Iceland thing, freaking quarter of a mile high or half a mile high at times. What the hell? Can we expect that to happen around the world someplace? The answer? Yeah. And so us studying these things, us bringing these things about, talking about these things, we're not trying to scare people. What we're trying to say, hey, this is a reality, the world we live in. Live life like it's, there is no tomorrow almost, which for many of us, there isn't. But, live life its fullest and be humble because you can instantly get wiped out. We have That's why we watch tornadoes. That's why we watch hurricanes. That's why we watch earthquakes and volcanoes. We watch solar stuff. We watch all these different things because our life here on this planet is very, very tenuous, let alone some jackass getting on top of a building, taking a pot shot at you. Why? Because he hates you? He doesn't even know you. What he knows is the hate that somebody else fed him. And that's why, I try to teach people, don't carry somebody else's bones.
Right.
Many people come to my side here at JSL on twitch.tv/Joe Slick Live. Many people come here that aren't welcome at other places. Why? Because I don't judge them unless they screw up here. And then they really, really regret it. Many people, after I've had to, there's 3 or 4, I had to tell them, you take a hike. But they're really, say, I have nowhere to go. Well, you have to learn. And I'm sorry, you can't learn it. You can't learn here at the behest of everybody else. You're hurting. Because you can't control your own thought processes. But life is short. I mean, look at we just had New Year's. We're in the middle of July already. I mean,
flies by fast.
Right?
It goes faster every year, bud.
It's like, oh my land. But
you just imagine how fast the next visit I come down to see you will be. But it'll be a longer visit.
It'll just seem shorter.
Your honey will probably dictate that, because of her time that she has on vacation, and if she's going to use it all, because she still has a responsibility. She can't just leave it. But you may come out first and then she may fly out, or vice versa. But I don't know how that's going to work, big guy.
I don't care as long as I get to drive the good car this time.
Yeah, I don't want to be stressed all night long waiting. He drove his truck. I thought it worked really well. But yeah, Tambora, when it exploded, it's on the, what's funny? Mount Tambora is near the seahorse that I show all the time. It's over by Little Toby and Little Tolo. I didn't know where it was. Here, let me show you.
Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch, like a ring of volcanoes around the outer edge of it.
I heard a. Yeah, here we go. Maybe it's that.
But that's usually where the super volcanoes, calderas are. There's always
triple junctions, yeah.
And there's always like a ring of smaller volcanoes around the edge of it.
Yeah, so here's the volcano we're talking about, Tambora. 1 centimeter of stuff went all the way out into Borneo. Half of Java was filled with, stuff. And when Mount Tambora blew in 1815, right? Borneo to Sulawesi felt that one.
Because I think Toba's bigger than Tambora.
Yeah. What was I looking up? Crap. Oh, I lost it. There it is. I think Tambora. Yeah, it did. 1815 was bigger explosion than I think Krakatoa. But Krakatoa just blew itself to pieces. It was like a Hunga Tonga happy eye. So, I know what I was doing. I was going to take a look at where the hell Tambora is right here. I didn't know exactly where it was, but it is in that triple junction over by the oh my gosh. It's not that one. Can it be? And they're not going to tell me here. Damn. think that's it. They got, they have other kind of names from the other countries, So I was like, what? I can't find it here unless I go on GE. I've got a map of it, but I'm showing you, I believe. Am I showing it? Yeah. I'm trying to find it.
Well, I thought it's both on Sumatra Island because Toba, I think, is on Sumatra too.
Yeah, Toba's up on Sumatra Island, about halfway up. But this one is called Tambora, right? Tambora.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I've got it. All right, share this. Tambora is right here. All right, so here is right here. The seahorse is over here. So Little Toby and Little Tolo there, but this sucker is right here, halfway toward Bali. So, I mean, look at that empty caldera. Damn. Yeah, let's see. It says it's 1348, 12 or 2348. All right, so basically 1,000 feet or 1,000 meters was blown out. Wow. And it's 7,000 wide. Measure. Come on. I need it in English. Meters a kilometer, feet and miles. Done. So it's 23. I hate when they do that. 3,000 feet. It's almost 5 miles wide. Damn thing exploded. 5 miles wide, 1,000 feet deep.
And that was what, a VEI 6?
7, I think. 4,000 down there. Wait.
Yeah, it says the last time it had an eruption was 1967.
Yeah, and there's 4,400 feet, and on the rim, it's 7,200 feet or 7,700 feet. So
that's a heck of a boom.
That's, oh my God. To clean it all out? Yeah.
Oh my God.
5 miles wide, 1/4 of a mile deep. Boom. Wow.
That is nutso.
Yeah. Was there any warnings?
Yeah. The
chronology
before it went boom.
It was dormant for several centuries as a hydrous magma cooled gradually in closed magma chamber. Inside the chamber, depths of 1.5 to 4.5 kilometers or 2.8 miles deep, cooling and partial crystallized. The magma exhaled. What the hell is exhaling? Trapped in cavities or gases. High pressure magnetic fluid over pressure of the chamber about 4,000 to 5,000 bars, about 73,000 psi, was generated as the temperature ranged to about 850 degrees Celsius, 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. In 1812, the crater began to rumble and generated a dark cloud. A moderate-sized eruption on April 5th of 1815, followed by a thunderous detonation sounds, could be heard in Tenerife on the Molucca Sea Islands. That's way over here. Because the Molucca
is that the volcano that the sound went around the globe like 6 times?
Well,
when it did the big boom.
Krakatoa did. I'm sure this one did too. And we're talking about this one here. So, moderate size of 15, eruption intensified about 7 and the 10th. 3 plumes roads merged. Pieces of pumice 20 centimeters apart or 8 inches in diameter rained down, followed by ash around 10 o'clock. The eruption column collapsed, producing hot pyroclastic flows that cascaded down the mountain toward the sea on all sides of the peninsula, wiping out the villages of Tambora. Loud explosions were heard until the next morning, April 11th. The veil of ash spread as far as West Java and South Sulawesi, while a nitrous odor was noticeable in Batavia. A heavy tephra-tinged rain did not recede until April 17th. Analysis on various sites of Mount Tambora using ground-penetrating radar have revealed alterations in the pumice and ash deposits covered by pyroclastic surge at the flow sediments that varied in thickness regionally. The eruption is estimated to have a volcanic explosivity index of a 7. It had 4 to 10 times the energy of 1883's Krakatoa.
Wow.
4 to 10 times the power. Shit.
That's crazy.
An estimated 100 cubic kilometers or 24 cubic miles of pyroclastic flow, tephra andesite, was ejected, weighing approximately 1.4 times 10 to the 14th kilograms. This left a caldera measuring 6 to 7 kilometers, 4.3 miles across, and 2,300 feet deep. The density of fallen ash in Makassar was 636 cubic kilograms. That's pretty heavy too. Before the explosion, Mount Tambora was approximately 4,300 meters, 14,000 feet high, one of the tallest peaks in Indonesia archipelago. After the eruption, the maximum elevation was reduced to 9,300 feet. It lost 5,000 feet. Wow. It lost a mile. Tambora is the largest, most devastating observed eruption in recorded history. Comparison to other major eruptions listed below, the explosion occurred 2,600 kilometers, 1,600 miles away, and ash deposits were registering at a distance of 810 miles away. Can you imagine if Rainier did the same damn thing? That kind of explosivity.
Well, Mount Mazama blew up, so
That would be wild. That's all I know.
I mean, you're talking 810 miles away. Ash was still falling. Or not just ash, but tephra. Yeah.
Yeah, so they say
ash deposits deposited 810 miles away.
Yeah, so it says the last notable eruption was there, VEI of 0 in 1967, and it had a very small eruption in 2011. So that's interesting because that was the same year as the Japan quake.
What happened in Japan in 1815?
I don't know. I'd have to look up.
Japan volcanoes 1815. We already know about that one. All right.
I got to get to my list of Japan earthquakes. So
yeah, it said Tambora killed 60,000 people, turned to summer in a winter. 1815, 1812, we kicked the British out. The impact of Tambora, 1815.
I don't see anything big in Japan. In the list, it jumps from 1792 to 1820 something in the Japan quake list.
All right.
But they're only like giving the list of like sevens. So
There were widespread evidence of weather, climate anomalies 1815 to 1817. But missing data was issued for other dimensions impaired food production, seen on 8 islands and 12 with data. Well, because the islands around Mount Tambora.
But now I'm just going to do a general search for 1815 for earthquakes and see what it gives me.
Right. And effects of 1815 Tambora, the EI7.
Okay, it says the 4 biggest eruptions in 1815 were Tambora, Vesuvius, Krakatoa, and Pelée.
Well, I could see Krakatoa going, but Vesuvius? Vesuvius is kind of active. Well, it's not Vesuvius right now. It's around it, Naples. That's the problem.
And Bali had a big earthquake the end of 1815.
All right. That's just
November 22nd, it says.
What's the size?
I don't know. I have to click on it to see. Magnitude 7.
Mm.
And it was above it.
Mm-hmm.
Flores Backert Thrustfall, it says. Killed 11,453 people.
Oh, wow. That was in the Bali Basin then? In the ocean?
Yeah, above Bali.
Right. So, oh, wow. All right.
It says it's on an east-west fault. So basically, if you followed it over, it goes right to where, because it says the fault is like 800 kilometers long. So it would go all the way over to like where Tambora was, most likely. Because Tambora was the same year, earlier that year. So that's pretty interesting. Well, I didn't know that. That's new.
I didn't know either. We learn stuff every day on Rabbit Hole.
Yeah, well, you just start looking up dates, and then once you say, well, look, that's a big quake right down the line, just across from it, because that's exactly what it was.
The in the Indonesia, generally speaking, in this region, southern Timor region, they do get large earthquakes, and the triple junctions are right up in here. They do get large earthquakes, but they're so very infrequent as opposed to up in here and back here. So to see Little Toli and Little Toba, or Little Toby and Little whatever, and then Tambora right there. And then Bali have a 7 right after.
Yeah, it says, I found an article, it says the 2 biggest disasters in Indonesia were in 1815 were the Bali earthquake and the Mount Tambora eruption.
Right. Can you, man, it set all these islands back so many years.
Yeah. So one was the spring and the other one was like the winter, or almost winter. I'm trying to find out if I can find any other things that happened that.
Talk about literally knocking them back to the Stone Age.
Right? I mean, you have, pumice falling from the sky that's 8 inches. Yeah, you're not going to survive that. Yeah, that's like rain. It wasn't just, throwing bombs. it was raining 8-inch rocks. That's just.
Your little tinner wood roof ain't gonna survive that.
No, I don't know how many would have those. He probably had leaves and branches.
Well, Vesuvius, I guess, was acting up between 1813 and 1815, it says. Off and on. So Vesuvius was being bad around that time, too. And then Pelée. I don't know which Pelée it is, because there's more than one Pelée. So
Pele or Pele?
Well, P-E-L.
Yeah, one.
The 2E one, so that's the one that's in Martinique.
Martinique. All right.
In the Caribbean.
I'm looking up. Yeah, in 1784. I'm looking up what Katla did to the world, and trying to see if Katla was busy around that time.
Iceland eruptions in 1815. Because there's a list of Iceland eruptions that you can look by year.
Mount Mayon, Philippines, in 1814.
Oh, so that would have been the year before.
Right. That was our level 4.
It's probably making triangles.
Mount Galungagung had a 5 in 1822. Japan Yusu, 1822. The first one was a 5. The last one was a 4. Then Etna exploded 1843 at a level 2. Nevado del Ruiz, a 3 in 1845. Mount Awu, Indonesia, in 56. Macon, Indonesia, 61. I don't know where the hell that is. Eredia? Eritrea? I can't even say that damn word. The Horn of Africa. 1861, 71. San Maria, Guatemala, 1902. That was a VEI 6. New Zealand, Mount Tarawera, 1886 was a 5. Krakatoa was a VEI 6. That's what it's saying, 1883. Killed 36,000 people. White Island, 1914, they don't have a VEI. Mount Agung in 1963 was a VEI 5. St. Helens was a VEI 5 as well. Killed 57 people known. Galungagun again in 1982. I'm not seeing
I'm getting to the list, but it takes me a while to scroll
through
it. Now, it says Grimsvötn in 1816. But before that was 1807.
Grimsvötn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even on the list here. those weren't VEI 1s or above, I guess.
No, it would say that in this list if they're really big.
Right.
But the Iceland list goes way back,
Right.
like they have even all the. How far does it go back here? I gotta see.
Freaking Indonesia's volcanoes. Edifel 1973 Iceland was a VEI 3. That's the only one I see on this list.
Because they're they're
Grimsvatn 1783. So both of them went off in 1783. Lockheed and Grimsvatn. I think it's all one kind of thing anyway.
Yeah, because they have dates for all the eruptions in Iceland going back to 16 million years ago.
Right. The Minoan eruption in Santorini was a VEI 7 in Greece, in the ocean there. And then Mount Samalas, Indonesia, in 1257 was a VEI 7. Hey, man, this place is blowing up. Oh, my gosh. Don't tell me that's where that is. Oh, please. You can see it, but you can't see it. Urgh. Right next to Tambora. Yeah. So it's Mount Samalas. Excuse me.
Joe, them two VEI 7s that you were talking about, are they on the same lediment at all, or are they on different ones, or?
This one here. Here's Tambora. And here's the other one. Both were 7s. VEI 7s. Crazy. One happened in 1257. The other one happened in... Somebody strike somebody out? That's crazy.
What it was.
It's your alerts.
No, it's not on my phone because I'm holding it in my hand.
No, sorry, that's mine.
Okay. Like, what?
Because I'm trying to find out what the Mount Mazama eruption was.
Mount Samalas.
Because it put ash in central Canada, it said, from the west coast of the U.S., so that's a long ways.
Oh, that's the one that's in Washington, the dead one, right?
Yeah, that made Crater Lake.
Yeah. Well, that Crater Lake's in Oregon, right? Or
Yeah.
the one, I always get Crater Lake mixed up with the one in California.
Yeah. So they said it was the biggest eruption in the Cascade volcanic arc, but I'm trying to see if they have a VEI level on it.
Let me see here. It formed 7,700 years ago.
Because that's how far they detected ash away from it, was central Canada. It says. But I don't see anything about what they estimated the VI level. Got a whole bunch of information, but not that.
No, I'm having the same issue. News, learn about photos, science and reading. Mazama Newts. I guess
Because that's when they find the ash layer and all the Cascadia studies from it. I don't know. I don't see anything about a VI level. Maybe they never estimated it.
Is a complex volcano in Oregon on a segment of Cascade Volcanic Arc, Cascade Range. Peak once existed, but it collapsed following a major eruption 7,700 years ago. The volcano is in the Klamath County, Oregon, blah, blah, blah. Caldera that holds Crater Lake, blah, blah, blah. Originally had an elevation of 12,000 feet, but followed a climatic eruption, reduced to 8,100 feet. Crater Lake is 1,900 feet deep. Deepest freshwater body in the U.S. is second deepest in North America. The Great Slave Lake in Canada. All right. Mazuma is a shield volcano, small composite cones. Is the largest known with the Cascade Arc. Reduced its whatever height, about 1 mile. Kind of caldera. Yeah, they don't really say a whole lot, do they?
No, it's talking all about it, but it's not saying anything about what they estimated the VI level of the eruption.
Right.
I think they'd be able to figure that out if they knew how far the ash went. I think they.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm not seeing it,
No. When I asked it, it never gave me a number, so they must not know what the VI level was, I guess.
It eventually formed a lava dome 4.8 cubic miles in dimensions by 15 miles. Featured 40 rhyodactic domes and lava flows produced between 470,000 to 410,000 years ago, before the Stratocone formation began. The average thickness, western flanks, the complex average thickness, really erupted didactic lava, west 6.2 miles. It's 170 to 120,000 years ago, andesitic lava deposits can be observed in caldera walls northern side Mazamba complex inactive for 75,000 years ago. Volcano erupted effusive lava flows andesite that formed 980 foot thick deposits. So last time it was really active 75,000 years ago. 70,000 years yielded a silicic lava that created a thick pyroclastic deposits. 50,000 years of vent erupted a Watchman flow, which filled the canyon southwestern lava complex. The dome often collapsed, produced pyroclastic flows. Throughout its eruptive history, Mazama was produced basaltic andesite and andesite diacite lava. Underwent dramatic shift solely in rhyodactic lava, which is highly viscous and has had a silica content about 70% between 30 and 25,000 years. Rhyodactic eruptions occurred in the complex. This thing blows up quite a bit. The same eruptions formed the nearly vertical wall crater 27,000 years ago. And it seems about every 50,000 it blows up. So we're still okay.
Well, at least for a while yet.
Yeah. Unless
Quake Cat said VEI 7.
VEI 7 cat 77,000 years ago. Thank you. I got 70,000 years ago. Then the caldera, which erupted Lassen volcanic center about 600 years ago. What? Mazuma erupted as the largest explosive eruption within the Cascades in the past 10 million years. No, past million years. However, recent studies say that the volume of the rockland ash, which erupted from the Lassen volcanic 600,000 years ago, could be up to 326 kilometers. I don't know what that. All right. Which would make it over twice the size of Mazama's ash. Mazama climactic eruption is one of the largest eruptions in the Holocene epoch, considering Mazama's eruptive output. And in the past 420,000 years, it may have produced more than 43 cubic miles of eruptive volume. Oh my God.
So they said Lassen was bigger than Mazama?
Mm-hmm. Making it either the third, fourth most productive quaternary volcanic center in the Cascade Range. The eruption had a volcanic explosivity of a 7, as determined from the eruption cloud height, eruptive volume, and qualitative observations. Meaning quantitative guess. Guess, not guests. Yeah, the western United States and Canada volcanic ash forms distinct layers among recent geological deposits and can be used for stratigraphy among the geologists and archaeologists. Given the large distribution of historic eruptions of Mount Mazama, the ash it serves as a common geological marker. Mazama ash had a minimum fallout of 350,000 square miles, with the ash in northwest Washington's Glacier Peak volcano, known as Glacier Peak ash, encompass an area of more than 100,000 square miles. All right. So, and Mazama ash is found at a higher layer than the Glacier Peak, estimated to have deposited over 13,000 years ago. Mazama ash is the most widely distributed tephra layer in the Lake Quaternary in the United States and Canada, southwestern Canada, that is. Extending 8 states to the west and 3 Canadian provinces, it forms an orange-colored deposits. Interesting. Like Glacier Peak, Mazama ash is well preserved in the PNW. The pumice deposits ejected from the Glacier Peak volcano, which contain more phenolcysts. Mazama ash also has more soda, yttrium, erbidium, and zirconium, and less silica and lime than eruptive products of Glacier Peak, and forms finer deposits than Glacier Peak ash.
That's pretty interesting.
Yep. So the Cascade volcanoes can
Yeah.
go
So
really big.
So Glacier Peak popped before Mazama. Sorry. Some of Glacier Peak ash is found in the strata beneath Mazama in Washington State and Idaho, 419 miles to the southwest of Glacier Peak. Studies of the Glacier Peak ash deposit suggest that it's older than Mazama, about 12,000 miles or years. Glacier Peak ash has not been found deposits less than 10,000 years old. Nearly all human artifacts have been found above its deposits, except for a site at Birch Creek where non-diagnostic artifacts were discovered beneath Glacier Peak ash. Well, they've already found people in the United States 35,000 years ago.
Well, they probably weren't too close to where the ice was, so they'd have to be farther south.
Yeah. Well, in San Diego, they found one here, last year or earlier this year?
Yeah.
That were like 35,000 years old. And then in Washington, they found poop and artifacts, like weapons and stuff. 25,000 years.
Well, they wouldn't want to hang around erupting volcanoes.
No.
The I-7 wouldn't be too fun.
No. Man, I don't know what the size of the VEI would be, Yellowstone or Bishop. I can't compare. This one's pretty significant.
Well, I think it says for them too, like what it would estimate at. I just don't remember. You'd have to look up each one.
Well, I think a small Yellowstone, they said it would be at least a VEI 5.
Yeah, VEI 7, it was Long Valley.
But if Yellowstone like totally blew up, it would be a VEI 8 for sure.
Still get the same image, but Yellowstone caldera 7 plus. Yeah. Yellowstone caldera. Here we go.
Well, there's lots of big ones out there that could do something. We've just been fortunate the last few, whatever,
200 years at least.
Like I said, I think in context, what I was trying to get at, and before we got on this little rabbit hole, was life is tenuous. I mean, it's precious, and our lives can be destroyed really quickly by natural events or supernatural events. I don't know what you call these things. VEI 7. That's kind of like, but
well, if you were near it or within so many couple 100 miles, it'd be like the apocalypse to you.
Yes, it would.
And that's what I was saying. What was it? Tambora went 810 miles.
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, it just goes to show you that tomorrow's never guaranteed, no matter where you're at.
Yeah. So the apocalypse is always relative to where you are. That's how it works.
All right. Yeah, in the last 16 million years, Yellowstone's gone off 7 times. The last time was 600,000 years ago. So,
that was the last big one, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there a small one? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Canuck, but wasn't there like a real small one, like 80,000 years ago or 70,000 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. But you have to think about what was that covered by ice when it happened.
Right.
Because see, there's another thing that you could match up with
And seven
floods and stuff too.
Yeah, seven volcanic blasts out of Yellowstone, right? In the last 16 million years. Means every 2.28 million years, it explodes. The two eruptions were 0.6 million years and 2.1 million years. So we're into that realm.
Yeah, and like it wouldn't have to be a super big eruption to melt a whole bunch of ice too, right?
No doubt.
Or there'd be earthquakes with it too, which could cause the ice dam to break and let water out too.
Well, in Yellowstone Park, they can have what, up to 7.5s up there.
Yep.
Yeah, sevens. What is that? With that lake or whatever it was called?
Yeah, Lake Hebgen was whatever 7.3 or above.
Oh.
So it's no stranger to big quakes either.
No. And so it's like Hebgen going off, not too long ago, less than 100 years ago, and the park didn't explode. So kind of funny.
Because I wonder if it was a big quake at was a Salt Lake that made the Lake Bonneville flood there. Which that would have been like a 7+ around Salt Lake City in the Wasatch. That would have busted it, the land bridge there, so the water could come out of Lake Bonneville, which is old Salt Lake City, or around Salt Lake in Salt Lake City. And then Lake Bonneville the flood came down there and went through Twin Falls, Idaho there. I was more interested in the Lake Bonneville flood than what's the other ones. Because I never thought about it coming that far, all the way from Salt Lake City all the way to the West Coast. That's a long ways.
Right. And Nova Rupt of 1912, that was VI6.
Yeah.
And, I know it laid some ash out in Canada, but it didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah. So that would have been 6 years after the San Francisco quake.
Crater Lake. No, Yellowstone was a VI8, both of them. Leaving ash to central Mexico all the way to Dakotas. Crazy. Freaking crazy.
Yep, so they can go big.
Tambora was another big one, VI7. Colombo was a VI6 in 1650. Santorini was a VI7. Vesuvius was a VI5 in 79 AD. Bardabunga was a VI6 in 1477. Grimsvatn and Laki, 1783-85, was VI6. Kuril volcano, I don't know where that's, like right by Kamchatka, and it's on next to Kuril Island. It was VI7 in 5,000 years before Christ. Changbei was a VI7 in northern Korea. Kike, and that happened in Northern Korea 969 AD. And Kike, 4300 BC, was a VI7. And That's out in the ocean on Okinawa. (1660) Long Island in PNG next to Menam, I think it is. VI6. Billy Mitchell, 1580. It's a VI6. Taupu, 230, was VI7. Taupu, 22,000 BC, VI8. Taupu, 2.5 million or billion, a million, VI8. So Taupu is scary monster. It's gone off at least 3 times in history that they know of, which all VI7 or 8s. I wonder if it's because of the ocean, and it blew up because of the ocean.
Oh yes, so I found the information about the other quake there in Sicily, right by Etna. It was 1169. And guess what was acting up at the same time as that? In Iceland. The same place that's acting up right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's when the Krishevik fires and all that happened in the Reykjanes.
Check this out. Article Super Volcano.
And the 1169 Sicily earthquake was in February 1169. And I think it was between a magnitude 6.4 and 7.3. The cities of Catalina, Lentini, and Modica were severely damaged. And the earthquake also triggered a large tsunami. Overall, the earthquake is estimated to cause the deaths of at least 15,000 people. So pretty much similar to 1783, when we just talked about that one earlier. And then there was another one there, I think, in the 600s that I looked up before too. I got to find the exact date and see if it was going on, if it was the same time as the other eruptions in Reykjanes. Sicily earthquake. Because I had them all in this one article. It gave me all the exact dates, and that's what I used to compare to the Iceland stuff. But I can't find the article now, so I gotta.
Well, next time around.
Do it by memory.
Well, probably like the next time around, because we went an hour and 23. We'll have to talk about satellites next time.
Yeah, because it would take a while just to do that. So
yeah. Yeah, maybe when you have time.
We'll just have to start on satellites next time.
We keep talking about satellites. Kat says list of volcanic eruptions don't include flood basalt events. All the traps such as Deccan, Siberian, Portage Lake, and many others. No, probably not. But if you find a data that would help us kind of piecemeal, what we do generally is we kind of focus in on a date, and then we kind of extrapolate off of that date what else was happening in the world at the time, and to see if there's any relationship. And sometimes it appears like there's one, and then other times it's like, no. But depending on, solar events or earthquake events or, storms or, the Inzo and the Outzo and, El Nino and all that. we look at a lot of different areas to see if there's something going on that is more than just an earthquake.
Well, it was interesting, like the example tonight, the
Mhm.
1815 Valley quake was the same year as Canberra blew up. So that was pretty good. I didn't know that till tonight.
Yes, Cat. Those mentioned above are ancient, no doubt. And everything is, is a bit subjective when it comes to dating things. So that's kind of something we're aware of. The opportunities to learn and to develop more understanding of our world around us is kind of what we're after. I think the belief is that earthquakes are a physical, visible form of what our Earth is doing silently and invisibly. And we're using the natural to look into the invisible, or the visible looking into the invisible. That's the way to say it. And looking to see if there's some sort of understanding we can grasp and get. And I'll tell you, sometimes, when you say you put a forecast out and it happens 50 to 70% of the time. But we're not in the business of forecasting. We're in the business of learning and understanding our Earth and our solar system and the systems beyond our solar system, and how all the interplay works. And if I could rename a rabbit hole, it would be called interplay, because that's what happens. We're searching for really a needle in a haystack, and we're just having fun doing it. So if you want to join us over here at Joe Slick Live, it'd be twitch.tv/Joe Slick Live, all one word. And you can see us over here on YouTube. You can see us on Locals. You can see us on Twitter. You can see us on Facebook. You can also see us on Rumble. Canuck, you have anything else you want to add?
No. Because I'm still trying to find that article I had the other time.
Right. Luke, do you want to say anything?
No, I think I'm good for the night. I learned a couple things new tonight, so I'm good.
Yeah, thank you, Kat. Thank you, everybody who else contributed to the discussion. Beth, it was great. Eden, Bob, Timmy, Canuck, and of course Luke, Susan, and Simply Sue, and Brainstorm out there. Don't forget, we do this on occasional Saturdays, but the last Saturday kind of sucked, as you all are well aware of, and we kind of let that one go. And we'll do it again, maybe this Saturday, and we'll try to get it all together. Thanks a whole lot. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah. Thank you for your tips, your subscriptions, and your participation. Appreciate you.
Please share with your friends too.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good
Good
night.
night.